Some people are just made differently. You know that feeling when you've been defined by a single role for so long, maybe as a mother, a sister, or simply by your job title. People see only one dimension of you, forgetting how multifaceted and complex you really are. And while a little mystery is always intriguing, keeping our strengths hidden, our talents, our beliefs, the things that make an impact is truly a loss. Miriam Makeba was one of those rare figures who carried an undeniable elegance. While standing firmly for what she believed in, she shared her voice and culture with the world. But the price she paid was unimaginable. This woman, with her striking presence and signature African elegance and beauty, had a journey that was so extraordinary as it was painful. Her African roots weren't just an inspiration for her music, they were the very essence of her being, and that connection made her fight fiercely for her homeland, just as so many of us feel, and how we are tied to where we come from. The rise of a star. Before she became the global icon we know today, Makeba's rise started in South Africa, where her talent was undeniable. In 1975, Lovely Lies hit the Billboard Top 100. Her star was rising, photo shoots and interviews flooded in, and soon she made her cover debut on Drum, the famous South Africa's family magazine. People could sense it. She was going to be someone, but no one could have predicted just how legendary she would become. Not even Nelson Mandela when they met for the first time. With every performance, she captivated more people. Audiences of all backgrounds lined up to see her in King Kong, a jazz opera where she performed alongside South African jazz legend Hugh Masekela. This was the moment she crossed into international fame. Fearless in art and activism, Makeba wasn't just a singer, for sure. She was fearless in every act and move. She took on a daring role in Come Back Africa, a film by Lionel Roxin that exposed the harsh realities of apartheid regime. The movie was filmed in secrecy, for sure, because showing the truth about racism in South Africa was a very big crime. Yet, she did it anyway, and it paid off. The film opened the doors to America, where she met one of her closest allies in music, Harry Belafonte. Together they created magic. When Pata Pata was released, it became an instant Afropop gem. She debuted on a Steve Allen show before an audience of 60 million. Critics loved her, and America was mesmerized. Then came the click song, and even Time magazine wrote about her breathtaking artistry. Her voice was unlike any other. She could shift from operatic elegance to deep romantic melodies. She had an innate emotional awareness on a stage, knowing exactly when to dance, when to pause, and when to draw people in. And through it all, she carried herself with the grace of a queen. Miriam Makeba's fashion was just as unforgettable as her music. She made traditional African fashion to high fashion. She was known for her iconic Zulu hats, the bold African headdresses she wore with effortless sophistication, and she mastered the art of pairing oversized ivory earrings with modern maxi dresses. She redefined elegance by styling beaded necklaces with open shoulder gowns. Show after show, she stunned audience in rich embroidered kaftans and vibrant dashiki dresses. The thing is, her deep love for African fashion wasn't just about a style. It was more of a statement, a declaration of identity, culture, and let me say, pride. By the 1960s, she had conquered the world. She was compared to Ella Fitzgerald, praised for the warmth of her performances, like Frank Sinatra. She sang at John F. Kennedy's birthday at Madison Square Garden, won a Grammy with Belafonte, and was at the peak of her success. But when you stand in the spotlight, sometimes the good turns to something really great, and the bad turns into something much worse. 2 years after moving to the US, she learned she could never return home. Her passport was brutally revoked. She no longer had a country, and worst of all, she wasn't even allowed to attend her mother's funeral. Her heart was broken, but instead of retreating, she spoke up. The world had already fallen in love with her music, and now people were listening to her message. She lost 2 family members in the Sharpeville massacre, and by then she knew she had to take a stand. Her songs became more than melodies. They were weapons of peace. In 1963, she stood before the United Nations demanding Nelson Mandela's release from prison and speaking out against apartheid. But in doing so, she made enemies. She married Stokely Carmichael, a Black Panther leader, and yes, suddenly the US turned against her. She was exiled again, this time from America. Her visa was simply revoked, forcing her into exile in Guinea. She had lost her home once again. Despite everything, she never stopped. Her music, her voice, and her fight for freedom continued. But then, tragedies struck again. She lost her only daughter, a rising star in her own right. Still, Makeba passed on. She was no stranger to suffering. She had spent the first 6 months of her life in jail with her mother, imprisoned for selling homemade beer because they were just simply too poor to pay a fine. She had survived an abusive marriage, battled breast cancer, and still she rose. Her dream of music had started in a boy band, Cuban Brothers, where she was the only female singer. She moved on to the Manhattan Brothers, blending African and African American influences. And later, with the Skylarks, she found her voice in an all-female group. When she met Nelson Mandela again in the 90s, he was the one who urged her to return to South Africa, to home. And at last, after 30 years of exile, she finally went home. She once said, "I always wanted to leave home, but I never knew they were going to stop me from coming back. Maybe if I knew, I never would have left. Nobody will know the pain of exile until you are in exile." Her music was her greatest legacy, her most peaceful weapon in the fight for justice. She gave the world the beauty of African music, fashion, and spirit, but at a cost that no one should have to pay like this. And maybe that's the price of being extraordinary. Sometimes even I think that maybe she could have lived a quieter life. Maybe she could have suffered less. But then she wouldn't have been Miriam Makeba. She wouldn't have been Mama Africa. And she wouldn't have given the world the gift of her voice, her culture, her dream. So here it is to the ones who dare. The ones who hold elegance and power in equal measures. The ones who know that the real luxury is the freedom to live your truth. Because as Makeba proved, when you fight for your dreams, no exile, no loss, no injustice can truly silence you.